Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRSTV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is a special thoughts and commentary video. In this video, I'm going to talk about this situation that has been trending on Twitter and has gone viral all over social media. And I'm talking about with this latest reveal from an interview that was done on Comedy Hype with this guy named Rashawn Khan. Now, Rashawn Khan is the former bodyguard of Richard Pryor, and he was also Richard Pryor's personal trainer. Well, in this interview with Comedy Hype, he mentions that after the movie JoJo Dancer, the friendship between Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor began to fall apart. Because we all know the history of Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor. You know, they've done a lot of great work together. Paul Mooney has appeared in a lot of his movies. He's even helped write some of Rich's material. He's, you know, and Paul Mooney is a comedic legend. I mean, he's wrote for Sanford and Son and Living Color. You know, Paul Mooney definitely is a very creative and hilarious human being. And I'm a big fan of Paul Mooney as well as Richard. I mean, I'm a true Richard Pryor fan. I mean, me and my brother grew up on Richard Pryor movies. I mean, to tell you the truth, you pull out a Richard Pryor movie, trust me and my brother would literally be sitting down, eating popcorn, getting our damn life. And as a matter of fact, I used to actually have this DVD with 4 movies on it. So I love Richard Pryor, and I definitely remember, you know, Paul Mooney playing small roles in some of his movies like Which Way Is Up and Bustin' Loose and a few others. Well, in this interview, he has said that after they did JoJo Dancer together, their relationship began to fall apart, and it was all due to the fact that Paul Mooney allegedly had sex with Richard Pryor's son, Richard Pryor Jr., and that alleged by Rashawn Khan, who's actually writing a book, which is kind of making me somewhat speculate, is this guy really telling the truth, or is he creating, you know, a sensation so therefore he can get book sales? But, you know, as of this point, you know, who knows? But pretty much, he said that due to the fact that when Richard found out about Paul Mooney having sex with his son, he wanted to have Paul Mooney X'd out, and that he was willing to pay $1 million for somebody to hit Paul Mooney and take him out. And according to Rashawn Khan, the only thing that stopped it was when Richard Pryor had burned himself while he was freebasing cocaine. You know, when he caught on fire and had to go to the hospital, he said that was the only thing that stopped Paul Mooney from being killed. So that's the only reason why Paul Mooney's alive. Now, me personally, you know, due to the fact that there's a lot of accusations and it's coming from this one source, but Richard Pryor Jr. has never come out and actually said that Paul Mooney molested him or wherever or anything of that nature. But, you know, they did, I actually checked out a few videos talking about this situation. One of them, Lovely T, I'm a big fan of her, shout out to her. She had showed a clip when Richard Pryor Jr. Was being interviewed and was asked questions in regards to this, and he was saying that, he was asking, so was the situation, was it forced or was it consensual? And he alleged, well, how can it be consensual when you're like a teenager at the time? Because alleged around when this time happened, Richard Pryor Jr. would have been like in his early 20s or, you know, late teens. But he never mentioned Paul Mooney's name, and when they kept asking questions, he was like, no comment. He was literally dodging it. So the question asked, did it happen, but was it an actual rape, or was it a consensual encounter? But Roshan was also saying in his interview the reason why Richard was so mad was that, one, he considered Paul his friend, you know, kind of like a brother, you know, because they worked together for years. Even when Richard Pryor had the Richard Pryor show, you know, one of the main writers on that show was Paul Mooney, as well as he was also one of the executive producers. So they have a long history together. And for him to have a sexual relationship with his son, yeah, I could see he would deem that as a violation if that happened. You know, because a lot of this is alleged. You know, no one has actually came out and actually said this happened outside of Rashan Khan. And there may be some truth to what Rashan Khan is saying, but yet it kind of looks kind of iffy that you're writing this book and this and then yet you're talking about this situation when it should have been Richard Pryor Jr. to talk about it, not you. Just saying. But then again, that doesn't mean that Rashan is lying. But then again, it also it also questions, is he telling the truth? It's kind of that situation. And let's just say this thing has been trending like crazy, and I had to talk about it because I'm a huge fan of Richard Pryor as well as Paul Mooney. I mean, I get my life from listening to Paul Mooney's, old tapes and, performances and stand-up routines. I mean, Paul Mooney is hilarious. I mean, there's times like Paul Mooney had me crying. I was laughing so hard. The same thing with Richard Pryor. I mean, the two of them were just like a dynamic. That they were like the dynamic duo of comedy, and they worked so well with each other. And the thing is that it really makes you question, what is going on, that this is now coming out when this happened damn near 30 years ago. And why is it that, no one has actually, but then again, based off of Richard Pryor Jr.'s response to the reporters, it's kind of like they're kind of spinning it that he's somewhat, alleging that something happened, but he never mentioned Paul Mooney's name. So therefore, until we get Richard Pryor Jr. on file saying that it went down, then we can say that. And I also will go to say that, Richard Pryor Jr. is an openly gay black man. According to reports, he actually came out to his father in 1981, and his father fully supported him and loved his child. So that's a message to you black men. If you got a black gay son, love him. Love is unconditional, and just because the son don't turn out the way you want him to be, doesn't mean he doesn't deserve your love. So I was happy that Richard definitely supported his son, and definitely, still supported his son, once his son came out, as being a homosexual. But, when he had made that statement, though, Richard Pryor Jr. saying that, well, could you say it was consensual when you were like a teenager and all of that? I'm like, well, far as I know about how gay men get down, yeah, it's a possibility, bitch, because there's a lot of these youngins who go for older men. They go for daddies, honey. They look for daddy to take care of them, to feed them, to clothe them, and to satisfy them, honey. So it happens. There's a lot of that goes on in the gay community, where younger men go for older men, or an older man goes for a younger man so he can kind of raise him to his hand, to be like his personal kept boy. It goes on, so it could be that kind of situation, but who's to say? Because at the end of the day, we got Rashan Khan making his accusations, but then again, there needs to be more evidence and more proof, or Richard Pryor Jr. himself coming out and admitting, yeah, Rashan Khan was telling the truth that this happened, and I stand behind his statements 100%. Then we got something. But it's still iffy, and Paul Mooney has denied all allegations, and I'm definitely on the fence with this, because this is kind of the same thing that went down with Bill Cosby. This went down with with a lot, and because even Eddie Griffin had did an interview with Vlad TV, where he says that no black artist leaves the industry clean, so they always try to find a scandal to destroy your image and your legacy. You know, and it's kind of like a similar thing that happened with Bill Cosby and the whole rape allegations. You know, the question is there any truth and any evidence in support of this? And the thing about it, why is it that this is now coming out 30 years later, you know, when it should have came out a hell of a lot sooner if this thing really did happen? But it's just insane, you know, that this is going on. But shout out to Ernest Owens, you know, because he did a post on Twitter where he said that, you know, don't get this shit confused where you're comparing pedophilia and homosexuality, because they're not the same thing. And you're right, absolutely right, Ernest Owens, they're not. Pedophilia is you taking advantage of a kid and sexually violating a child. Homosexuality is a consensual thing. You both agree to it. You both decide what's gonna go down and how y'all gonna do it, and y'all let the birds fly, baby. That's homosexuality. So yeah, I do hate it, because the problem in the black community is that there's so much stigma around sexuality, period, especially homosexuality, that people like to draw straws and like to compare shit that really aren't even in the same category. I mean, pedophilia and homosexuality should never be in the same category, because gay men ain't trying to have sex with underage children or trying to force themselves onto children. You know, if any, I mean, there is some older men that go for, there are some older men that go for younger men and vice versa, but it's not pedophilia, you know, because at the end of the day, they both consent to it. You know, it's not someone forcing one or the other to have sex, because pedophilia is where you violate someone and it's through force, and sometimes it can be brutal, you know, and it can be violent. You know, that's not the same thing as homosexuality. So when people compare the two, it really does piss me off. And then there was another person, Dart Adams, shout out to you. He did a post on Twitter where he said that this situation between Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor Jr., if it happened, it had to be consensual, because around that time, you know, 1985 or so, you know, Richard Pryor Jr. was in his early 20s. He wasn't a minor. So it kind of questions, was it rape or was it consensual? Because even though he was in his 20s doesn't necessarily mean that it was consensual. It could have been a rape. Who's to say? But no one has come out and said exactly anything but Roshan Khan. But then his accusations are questionable, because he is writing a book, and I think the title of the book is called Everything Wasn't Funny, and it's going to be talking about his affiliation with Richard Pryor and all of his dealings with him. And this is one of the things that he talked about in that interview. And I was literally, my mouth dropped when I first watched this comedy hype review on YouTube. I was like, oh my god, like, I would have never thought that at all. I mean, not with Paul Mooney anyway. But as I said, Paul Mooney has denied the allegations. So therefore, the question is, did this really happen, or is this just another coup d'etat to ruin another black legend? Get down on those comments and let me know what you think. But then again, I will say time and time again, be respectful. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying in this video, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me, but be respectful to my platform and to me, because I don't play any disrespect. Because I don't go on anybody else's platform and disrespect them. I may disagree with something, but I don't go out my way to call them out their name or anything like that. Any comments like that will be removed, because I don't play that shit. So get down on those comments. Let me know whether you agree or disagree, or let me know your thoughts on this situation. But one thing I can honestly say, this is really mind-blowing, and I'm literally got my ears to this to see how this is going to unfold. So that's what I have. Get down in those comments and let me know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree. Also, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And until next time, everybody, take care.